everyone. My name is Debbie with 1 Million Diamonds, and today I'm interviewing Nommo, also known as Joshua Edward Bennett, who is on a Zoom interview with me today.
Hello.
This is the first one we're doing today. I wanted to have you discuss a little bit about your background first before I start asking you questions. I hope that's okay.
Sure, yeah, of course. I am originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. That's where I was born and raised. I've lived in the South ever since then. I moved to Mississippi when I was like 15, and I've lived in Tennessee and Louisiana for the most part since then. I got my bachelor's degree in Tennessee at the University of Tennessee in painting and drawing back in 2001. And then 2006. I graduated high school in 2001. And then I recently received my MFA at Tulane University here in New Orleans, which is where I am now.
Nice. So I was so lucky to actually curate a show with your work, and I was absolutely impressed. I did a show at Deep Space Gallery in Jersey City, which is really fun, called Love Triangle. And when we saw your work, we were blown away by it. It's just so meticulous, so clean, um, unbelievable sculptural work. Um,
Thank you.
can you tell me about where you started with that?
Yeah, so I started that back in 2015. The work that you are sort of describing, which is what I've been doing since then. I moved to New Orleans in 2012 and got a job working at a fabrication shop. And I got rolled into learning the CNC technology and also like digital printing technologies. And ever since my undergrad, I was sort of frustrated with painting, having the space, having the time. I was using oil paints at the time too, and so like I've never really found like a rhythm with my studio practice. And then at one point with working at this shop, I had the epiphany to sort of roll my work into using that technology. So my practice became more sculptural, became more layered, and was using materials that are normally used in sign making or fabrication. And that's where I sort of have been ever since. I feel like I have still have only scratched the surface of the capabilities there. And it's really freed me up in a lot of ways. I do feel like it's work that is pretty like hard to describe. I haven't really landed on the right way to explain or describe them. Usually it's like wall relief sculptures or objects. It's easy to call them paintings or sculptures, but they're kind of both of those things. I don't know. They're kind of unique in that regard.
I just see such an interesting language through it. And even the first time I came upon your account, I was just blown away by how meticulous they are and how much time you spend with them. How much time do you spend on them usually?
Well, the process is kind of it's quite a long process. Usually, I will design in series or like suites. So it's kind of a stepped process that where I will create multiple things at the same time, and that's for multiple reasons. One, because it just helps me get through some of the like the compositional problems, but also it is financially feasible for me to do that, so I can down the line cut all the shapes out of a particular material at one time instead of having to do them one off. So it's sort of like a economic way of making work too. So I'll make like a batch of like anywhere from 12 to 25 pieces at a time.
Wow.
And that way I can paint all the yellow pieces, all the green pieces, or so on and so forth. It just makes it a lot easier. So yeah, that process can take anywhere from 1 month to 6 months. Or in the case of my MFA thesis, that took up to a year and a half to from start to finish.
Wow.
course, that was a lot more intense with the thesis show. But
I can imagine.
yeah.
Um, Now that this is going on right now, how have you changed your practice with the COVID and not being able to really show at shows? I saw that you were doing something, and I think I even advertised it, but um,
Yeah, thanks for always doing that. I really appreciate that support. Yeah, so I mean, my practice honestly has not changed that much just because of sort of what I was explaining now. Like I'm just finished up a series for the show in Houston with BES projects, and so I was on a on a low production trajectory anyway. And 2020 was meant to be my sort of exhibition year. Coming off of the thesis show last year and this show with Houston, I have an inventory of like over 50 pieces that really haven't seen that much, and so I was sort of last year, like after school, hitting the ground running, trying to get shows for this year, and so that has been my focus. Now that has shifted, it's kind of like a little disappointing. However, most of those shows are still in place. They're just being shifted forward, and uh, when I don't know, but yeah. Um, so, in the meantime, I'm trying to think about how I can utilize this time, and I'm doing all the stuff that I don't typically like to do, like update your website and all the available works lists, and
yep.
but I am trying to find time to sort of like venture out into some video work. So I'm thinking more about that, and also I'm kind of getting a compelling feeling to sort of work with two-dimensional mediums again, watercolors or even just drawing. So um, I haven't put pen to paper yet on that, but we'll see. That's something I want to try to get the ball rolling on that.
Yeah, it's those intuitive feelings that usually take us somewhere very interesting.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much my next question. A question I didn't ask you yet was, what is your art about? Do you have an easy way to answer that?
Yes. Central to most of my work is this sort of um, attempt to assign like a visual and like spatial aesthetic to like my own sense or my own like understanding of spirituality. And I think that sort of came across or came about rather when I first started making this work, and I was sort of conflicted making work with a machine and how to sort of like coalesce that with um, the idea of like the hand. It's like there's always this push pull in my own like idea of the work of how much I want myself to come through. However, like I want it to be as like meticulously clean as possible at the same time, and so like finding the balance between making it human and inhuman at the same time is like really where I try to bring in that spiritual element. Um, and it seems counterintuitive at times, but I think it comes across. At least it is my intention that it comes across, and oftentimes these pieces are shown in a immersive environment to where they the like lighting and there's scent and there's music is an attempt to sort of situate the pieces in a realm of which is more conducive to like internal or like spiritual reflection. Um,
Would you like
and
to show
that's
us some while you're talking about it? Because that would be kind of cool.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Would you like to show us some on your website? Do you have some?
Sure. Yeah,
Show
let me share the screen here and I'll go to my website here.
show us some of your good stuff because I mean it's helpful to see the art because your art is just so amazing and so strong.
Thank you. Can you see this?
I totally can.
Okay, great. So this is my website, joshuaedwardbennett.com. Please visit. I just updated it, so I'm feeling pretty proud about it. So let's see. This is OATSO 2019. This was my MFA thesis exhibition, which I also showed recently at a gallery called Alone Time Gallery in New Orleans. These are images from that show at Tulane University. So here is just some installation views of um, the actual exhibition. There were 23 pieces in total, including some printed posters, and all of this ephemera, furniture, and these have scent coming out of them, air diffusers.
That's
There's
awesome.
also there's like a specific scent to this project that's called Owatso, which has started in 2016, but it continues.
And what
Some
does
of
it smell like?
it's like a mixture of three different essential oils. It has a very like uplifting and positive smell to it, in my opinion. Kind of citrusy but floral at the same time.
Nice.
Um, so there's this like very keen, very specific aesthetic to this project, which again is called Owatso, which you can see here. Um, and this is sort of an ongoing project that I could see continuing for many years to come.
And there's the piece that you had in the show too.
Yes, that's one of the pieces in the Deep Space Love Triangle show. Yep.
Which is much bigger,
And
and much more beautiful than. I'm so glad I got to see your work in person. It was just unreal. I mean,
that is the challenge with
you
online, showing the work in
really need to
person.
see it in person. They're so good.
So I know I'm going kind of quickly. I'm trying to get to the one that you were just talking about here.
No,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, there we go.
So this is made out of acrylic and MDF. These are like ball chains, like from a dog tag necklace or something like that. It's digitally printed. It also has cork in it. So that has been sort of the focus recently with the work, is trying to create a diversity of materials within not only individual works, but in the whole suite itself. Um, Also in this series, I introduced motion. So these are actually, this one and this one here are connected to disco ball motors. And so they spin um, round and round.
Wow.
Um, and so, yeah, that's the Oatsu series. I can show you the most recent one. And stop me if you need me to move. Um,
No, no, take your time. We have a few minutes.
okay, great.
I want to take a look at your work because I want people to see the different
Yeah.
parts of it.
So this is the most recent work that I've created. This show opened in Houston, Texas on March 13th, so just right before everything shut down.
Wow.
There were like 10 people at the opening because everybody's, scared for good reason, but it was a little disappointing. But it is still up, and it's going to continue to stay up for a while. But it's a pretty small footprint of a gallery. These pieces are about none of them are bigger than 2 feet tall, and they're mostly between a foot and 2 feet. So this is some of the smaller work that I've made, but it definitely has a lot more going on within each work. So this is a series I called Seers, like as in like prophetic or like psychic or soothsayers of some sort. And thinking about the idea of a fortune teller or a seer as a spiritual practice, and how to see the future is something that we have always tried to know, but never have really sort of figured that out. Or at least we don't know how to do it these days. But a lot of other things are tied into it. The texture that you see here is from the asteroid that we landed on successfully about 6 years ago, or comet that we landed on using the Rosetta mission. And so I tied that to Houston and NASA. But I also used some new techniques with this work. This is actually digitally printed onto like signboard or like aluminum composite material. It's kind of like dye bond is another word for it. It's a brand. Um, and so yeah, that texture runs throughout, and there's just kind of three different colorways of the pieces. Kind of put these together as a diptych just because I thought they kind of fit well nicely together. Um, yeah, so there's 12 pieces in total. I think I showed 9 in this show. Um, but yeah, that's Sears. So I hope that these continue to move along um, with the exhibitions that are continuing to happen. But I do plan on making new work as well at some point this year, maybe later in the year.
My next and probably last question, since I've decided to kind of alter this as you've seen, is we did talk about this, but where do you think you get your colors from? Is it emotional? Is it just like where do you pull your colors from? Because mine are very emotional, and they change weekly.
That's a good question. I don't really understand where the colors come from. I feel like I do like get locked into certain color combinations. It's always going to be, I feel like it's always going to be at least 3, but no more than 5. So I sort of set myself up for those limitations. And I think that sort of stems with my design background and thinking about identity and especially like brand identity, which I think a lot of this work touches on, especially that Oatso work. It's meant to be this sort of like modified spirituality idea. Um, and I grew up. My dad worked for Pepsi Cola, and I was always around that logo, and like I was always interested in brand identity. I think from a young age because of that. I sort of talked about this in my thesis as it pertains to that particular series. Um, but also, I'm just really fascinated with like a set of colors being a brand or an identity or just the marker of a particular idea. And so the colors do often focus or like are central to like that sort of identity branding. Um, but I also really enjoy colors that have a sort of competitive nature with one another. So like to where like if you place them in a particular tone level, they start to sort of vibrate on their own and become like these like 60s psychedelic poster moments, where like you think you might be like losing your mind or tripping on acid or whatever. But so a lot of times those colors are there. A few years back, I got really obsessed with this sort of neon yellow color that was like just super ubiquitous. I like would step into Walmart and it was just like this huge tennis ball in the clothing section. Um, and so I was like, okay, well, this must be the color for this year. And so I made about 5 or 6 works with that color, and
I noticed
including this
you were going through
this
your
massive.
yellow phase.
Huh?
I noticed when you were going through your yellow phase. I think that's probably when I started watching your work.
Yeah. Yeah, I ended up making I'll just go and show you here real quick. I ended up making a really big yellow piece uh, for this show that I curated that included Esther Rees. And so yeah, that's the 5 foot by 9 foot tall
That's beautiful.
um, um altar, sort of like artificial intelligence altar. And these things were like columns that flanked it that were made out of all MDF. They were super heavy.
Wow.
um, but yeah, so that was the neon yellow phase.
All right. I like it.
I mean, I don't know if they are emotional. I guess in some respect they are. I don't know if I necessarily recognize that as such, but yeah, I think I am sort of attracted to like primaries, but also like shifted a little bit, So like that's where I get the yellow, blue, and red, or like the
Orange,
off
blue,
color.
and
Yeah,
yellow.
Hmm.
Those colors have to be seen in person, people. They are gorgeous. It is like unreal how bright your stuff is. And I was just blown away just how clean that piece was, especially with the digital printout. And then what did you do over that resin or?
No, that was actually just clear acrylic. It was the print is on the second surface, so it's the print is underneath. So you're actually looking through the clear acrylic to the print.
Wow. Yeah. Like I've never seen anything like that. And I've seen a lot of art and I was just like, this is super, super professional.
It helps that I work at a shop that allows me to do that, and I've learned so much just work making signs, and most of my like techniques have come from all of that. So it's a testament to sort of like using what you've got, and like I feel like I've been really fortunate to sort of fall into that and find a way to extend my creative output through this these means.
And now we got backup noises.
Yeah. Yeah.
We started the interview with a possible construction in the background, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I think it was still very successful. I wanted to say thank you so much for doing interviews today. Today's Nomo's interview. Is there a special way to say your name?
I mean, Nommo, whatever. I mean, that's just my Instagram handle. It was actually a DJ name for a long time, and a, a name that I used for uh, my musical sort of ideas. But yeah, people end up calling me that too. Yeah,
Nice.
Nommo, Joshua, Edward Bennett, either one works.
I was driving and I was like, maybe it's Nomo. I wasn't sure. What kind of
Yeah.
music do you DJ, by the way?
Well, I don't do it so much anymore because I've got a young child, and that was one of the first things to sort of go away. But I do keep up with like if I were to DJ, this is what I would. I do focus a lot on like uh, like lower tempo kind of stuff. I was always interested in DJing like bar settings where it wasn't like people like thrashing on the floor or anything like that. But I also am interested in a lot of music from Africa, specifically like current music from Zimbabwe. It's pretty incredible. Um, and yeah, so I would mix in. It would be pretty eclectic, but
You have to send me some links. I'm gonna cut this off. Unfortunately, we got started a little late, but that's all right.
yeah.
Thank you so much for being and doing this with me. Thank you for popping my Zoom cherry. This was great.
Debbie, thanks so much. No, I mean, I'm always so grateful for your continued support, and it means a lot that you asked me to do this. So I appreciate it.
Cheers, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, Debbie.